You're listening to the Valley Current.
Welcome in. This is Jack Russo, and we're broadcasting from a new radio booth that Joe Cachero, who's my great guest today and my partner in crime, he traveled in from Los Gatos to my office in Palo Alto, where we created a second radio booth emulating lots of the great things that I learned over the last couple of years from Joe. So first of all, Joe, I want to thank you immensely, because without your inspiration, I never have gotten to this point. And I have to say, and I have to also give great thanks to my wife, Dr. Lee Suter, who from time to time on your show,
yes, absolutely,
I often applaud, because she actually got all this equipment organized from various yard sales.
So the one thing to have the vision, Jack is the visionary, but we all of us visionaries, we need people around us to actually execute.
You need a good partner behind you, because I just said, I really want what Joe has, and I brought a bunch of photos to her. She didn't even come down to your studio, and she said, we can do that. And she said, what's the budget? I said, Joe has given me a patch paddle and a couple of cords. And she laughed and said, well, I think you have to get some equipment. So we took what was previously a broom closet. It's a lot smaller than your room. We put some soundproofing. We put some monitors. We actually bought some equipment. We got ourselves a nice table. And we, of course, Loran, as our great technician who's doing that, has created a great environment. And I thought it was only appropriate that I invite Joe on as my very first guest. Well, Joe, technically you're my second guest, because my wife had to be my first guest.
That's a must.
We did a show with her. And the beauty of it was we circulated to a few people that we really trust, like you. And we said, what do you think? And a few people came back and said, it would be nice if you were looking fondly at your wife. So welcome into the Valley Current, which is the name of the show. We're here doing Silicon Valley Live in downtown Palo Alto, California, on Florence Street, in our building here that we talk about from time to time. We may eventually do such a booth as well in San Francisco. So, Laurent, there might be another project for you shortly in our associated offices. And we're really going to the next level, which is in starting something we did with you last year, this pure startup mode. And in growing something, we're doing really what we're now doing out of this booth, which is, if you have the beginning of whatever you have as the beginning, and then you can actually start to grow it, how do you get the message out that you're scaling it up?
Right.
And you face that because you have a startup. It's called Bundle Select. We've helped you get started. We've supported you. We'll continue to support you. And I just want to spend 5 minutes, because now we were reversing roles. And you're kind of the guest here.
I like it.
And you're going to be able to tell us a little bit about the journey that you've had in going from starting to now growing. So why don't you give people a few minutes about this whole other side of your life, where you have transformed and are transforming the real estate process.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. First of all, it's a great studio. It's coming together, and I always say that, just to get started, I think no matter what you do, just to get started, if we look for perfection or we wait for everything to happen the way it's supposed to, it'll never get going. So this is great. It's good to have you.
What he's saying is, yes, it still looks like a broom closet, but you got some nice equipment in it.
I was actually fortunate, and I'll get to the Bundle Select in a second, but I was fortunate as I look back, I started radio in 2011.
Yes.
So I was fortunate to I would go to the radio studio in Fremont, and they had everything set up for me.
Yes.
So that's a different story.
Live terrestrial radio.
Right.
With the red light that goes on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On air, off air,
right. I like that.
You start sweating if you went too long or didn't come in long enough. But I had the fortune of starting that way. So as I evolved in that radio life, once I started a podcast several years later, I was used to the equipment. I had the guys come in and set it up for me. So to be honest, I had a bit of a head start that way. But this booth is great. I think what you guys have set up is great. And the fact that you have it underway, I can't tell you how many people in the last 5 or 6 years have come into my booth and said, oh, this is great. I'm going to start a podcast. And I always offer people, hey, if you need some help, I'll help you, I'll consult, whatever. I mean, I'm happy to do that because I know there's a value behind it.
You've probably multiplied in the Valley 50 to 100 people in doing this, just in seeing what you've done, because you are a pioneer in podcasting, but you're a pioneer in radio in the sense that you're one of the people that said, hey, I want to get a message out there that's really educational and informational. It's not marketing, it's not a jingle, it's not something designed to sell. You're like, hey, you have a problem, I can provide some help, I've got a network, I'm not here to try to squeeze you, call me, let me know. And that's a beautiful thing, and we don't see as much of it anymore.
I would agree. Thanks, Jack, for bringing that up, because when I pitched the show, Real Estate Radio Live, to the producers, the radio shows loved them, but a lot of marketing experts and people said, no, you gotta be selling something. You have to come in with a pitch. And I just went against it, and I said, no, I grew my business, education, information. That's the way I grew my business. I said, I want to take it to the airwaves. And I would agree with you. I think if you educate and inform, and people trust you and they like you, eventually you'll have a chance to do business with them. That's always the way I've done my business.
Right, and people, we've talked about this concept. The biggest concept to scaling is what I've called the speed of trust, which is if you can accelerate the speed of trust, you're on your way. So anything that decelerates the speed of trust is a problem. Anything that accelerates the speed of trust is great. We've talked about examples like is Facebook decelerating the speed of trust because of all these privacy violations? Can it recover? Google, the same thing. To some degree, all of these big social media companies have a big trust issue. Whether they're going to solve it or they're going to degenerate is the next open question. But I want to talk specifically now about Bundle Select because I think you came up, and I remember you first told me about what you were doing, and I thought, wow, if Joe can pull this off, this can really radically change the real estate business in a huge way. I mean, that idea must have occurred to you like years ago.
It did. Right? It occurred to me years ago, and it came to me really in working in this industry for almost 20 years, Jack, in that why isn't that we can't bundle all these services for the better, to the better of the consumer, and Bundle Select is a B2B play, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I always thought to myself, I'm a person, I think more common sense, logistical, looking at things, there has to be a better way to do this. I've always been that type of person. So when I thought about this concept of Bundle Select, the whole idea is the industry's working independent against each other. Why don't we come together as a group, or at least get a company that comes together for the benefit of the consumer?
Right.
Save them some money, improve efficiency, better use of technology, improve customer service, and at the same time, save them some money. And that was really the simple concept.
Let me drop a footnote for you, which is I remember many decades ago first meeting you, and you said, I've got this brilliant idea, and I think that I should give it to Delta, even though it's not within the scope of my work at Delta. But I work at Delta, and I have a position there. I'm not really hired, what's called in the field, hired to invent by them. You saw a lot of fat in the way in which passengers were getting on the plane very poorly with paper tickets. And I'm going to bring this all around because I sent Joe last week. I was in the middle of a trial, so we've missed some time. We just finished the case. It's a long story. I'll tell it another time. But I saw in the newspaper that Delta finally is using facial recognition at the line going into the airplane in lieu of what might be called the nutty ticketing approach. And you identified that issue, that precise issue, as a place to spend some time and money. And you came up with an invention that I think was called the Band-Aid or the Band...
Rapid Access Band.
Rapid Access Band. And we filed a patent on it. And Joe was going to go around to the industry because that band had some real estate that you wanted to drive advertising around. I remember this in detail.
Barcoded with
because I remember thinking, Joe is fundamentally an innovator, and he'll be back with something new even if Delta doesn't take this deal, which I think they passed on.
They passed on.
Right? You were like a nice guy ready to give it to them. And they were like, no, we kind of like paper tickets. It works.
I had it to where we could deliver the product free. That's how tough it was to deal with an industry
amazing.
Like that.
And it's a stodgy industry. A lot of people don't know the airline business originates. I know this because I've had lots of clients trying to change the industry in the airline business, transport as well, by computer technology. And it's a stodgy industry that originates from the military. So they got a military mentality, which is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we do things in certain ways, that's just the way we do it. Oh, the fact that some drone from Iran just bombed us and we didn't see that coming. Oh, okay, well, maybe we have to change things. You know, it's in the news this morning that apparently some oil fields got bombed by some Iranian drones or something, right? So you have always been an innovator, and you cast your eyes once you left Delta on other ambitions, and it turned out to be real estate and real estate finance, right?
Yeah, I left in 1998 to start, Customer Solutions, which in that was the rapid access ban. Unfortunately, spent a couple of years, that didn't really come together the way it was supposed to. However, I'll accelerate that story. Even though the airlines were saying, I would go meet with them, I would have the best meetings, Jack, and they would say, let's do a pilot program. And then I'd go back home excited, and then nothing would happen.
Right.
They just couldn't commit to it.
Right.
So right towards the end, I was in conversations with a manufacturer who was interested in it. And then right about 2000, there was this company out of Las Vegas, and I can't think, it was something airport check-in. So this company's idea was that we're going to allow you to check in and check bags at hotels, rent-a-cars, basically everywhere, to take the load off the airports, right? The congestion. So when I met them, they absolutely loved this concept because it just coincided, worked perfect. Put the band on, you scan away, bags checked in, so on and so forth. However, so we were talking about an agreement where they were going to invest in the company, and we were going down that road, and then 9/11 came along.
And we've had the anniversary. We had the.
So ironically, it was just a couple of days ago, the anniversary.
We had the 18th years, anniversary.
Right.
9/11, 2019 versus 9/11, 2001. 18 years later, I did painfully watch that night the history film called 102 Minutes. I hadn't realized that from the first attack to the final building falling, it was exactly 102 minutes.
I had no
idea.
idea.
The film, I always thought it was a lot longer. It turned out it was just less than 2 hours.
Wow.
And in that 102 minutes, 102 hours, it feels like 102 hours, 102 minutes, they put an exact film together that runs 102 minutes. And it shows you how things were changing, and you're crying as you're watching it, because those firemen are all going to die, but they don't know they're going to die. They think this is a fire, we've handled this stuff before, this building is resilient. No one there looks like, hey, this building might collapse, what are we doing? Let's get these people out and blow out of here. They're like, hey, we're going to make our way up, the elevators are locked, we got to climb 86 flights of stairs or whatever the numbers were. And there's no sense of anxiety. And you're watching it saying, these people don't see the tidal wave that's coming. And it's only when the first building goes down and people start running down the street, you say, wow, they finally got the message. They finally got the message. So, it's quite an event to have what you might say risks that you've never factored. You didn't factor that risk in. We've talked about failure. We've talked about you can try to start something, different things happen. But who would imagine essentially what's typically called these days a force majeure event, a force beyond a major force beyond any expectation, and it kills the business. It basically kills everything, right? Because people are like, "Are you crazy? We're not going to do that. That changes everything. Security issues. We want to take blood samples before you get on a flight at this point." DNA samples.
So that was the
fingerprints.
That was such a horrific event, but that was really the end of that idea, unfortunately. And that's when I decided, what am I going to do? And luckily, I had some friends and people that had been trying to get me into several different businesses. So I chose mortgage residential financing. I enjoyed that. It allowed me my freedom. I could build a business, etc. So to fast forward to save people the time, once I spend a certain amount of time in an industry, I have a tendency to constantly be observing and figuring out what can we improve. There's got to be a way to better do this, to save money, to be more efficient. So that took place in the residential real estate and lending business for me over the period of time.
So do you have a technique? I've had different people, clients, friends, colleagues, professors, expert witnesses and cases. They all have a different style. I still use paper and yellow sheets, but some people use tape recorders to sort of record ideas. Some people have actually gotten to the point of dictating into Siri, and Siri converts it to maybe some partially legible notes. Everyone's got a different style. Do you have a certain style of how you kind of collect your thoughts and think about where am I going to put my attention next? What's your approach to how you do it?
Well, over the years, I just got used to notes. And I have, boxes and boxes filled with these legal pads and these notepads of my thoughts, my ideas. I mean, I have boxes and boxes of these things still to go back. So primarily, that's the way I've done it. And I still do it that way. I mean, I carry a notebook usually, and usually when I set time away where I'm specifically thinking or coming up with ideas, I have this process in which, and kind of a side note to this, which is interesting, if any of the listeners, if you think you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, one of the things that's been one of the biggest eye openers for me, Jack, was to take this Strength Finders test. And what happened when I took this Strength Finders test probably a decade or so ago, now it's Strength Finders 2.0. They've done this amazing job in their themes. There's 34 themes or strengths, right?
Right.
And so they give you your 5 top strengths, and it's scary accurate. For those that take the test, I'm telling you, 98% of people that take it go, oh my God, this is me, I can't believe it. Well, the reason I bring this up is that every single time, you know what the number one strength comes up when I take that test, and I take it every couple of years?
Creativity.
Ideation.
Oh, ideation.
I'm fascinated with ideas.
Okay. I'm going to take that test to see how we compare, because I think there's a good point here, which is what it takes to growing a company is you want diversity of talent to fill in gaps. So if you're the idea guy and you're the big picture guy, you need someone who's going to be the implementer.
Absolutely.
You need someone who can execute. You need someone who's detail oriented. You need someone who can make things happen. People call it the person that keeps the railroad running on time.
Right.
Okay, the fact that you're figuring out, where are we taking the railroad next, that's fine, but someone's got to make sure the train has energy and paying customers and all the other details that make it all operational. And, that is a talent, and often idea people cannot execute because they are idea people.
Yeah,
so they have to have executing people along their side.
No doubt about it.
And so you've done that at Bundle Select. You've created a team. You've built the technology. You've filed the IP. You're now starting to get to the point of scaling because you've started to get lots of different companies, because B2B means it's business to business, and one part of the journey, as I understand, but you tell it, is realizing the B2C model doesn't scale as fast, right?
Right. So Bundle Select, what it is we partner with companies, and we offer their employees an online platform to bundle all their real estate services in one location to save a minimum of 25% with a dedicated concierge service at no cost to the company or employee. Simply said, that's what Bundle Select is. So we market and we develop relationships with companies to offer this as an employee benefit. We stayed away from the B2C because to me, it's a crowded, congested, really just a bloody mess out there, what's happening to me.
Right.
So I chose a more niche approach. And just like anything, Jack, we've talked about this before, you start down a path and you realize your customers tell you something different.
Yes.
And you adjust a little bit.
Yes.
And I think we've done a good job at that. And now we've got to the point where we have customers, we have people that are endorsing it. They say, we like this. And we're signing up more companies. And one of the most significant events we'll talk about in a couple of months to make it official is, we're going to have a strategic partnership with a major credit union in the Bay Area, which is a big home run.
That's big.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, listening to the customer on the journey is critical.
Critical.
And listening to the people who refuse to become customers is critical too.
Yeah, not only that, we've talked about this on your show that we do together, but one of the things that I've learned through this journey is not only listen to your customers, but boy, you got to check the ego in every once in a while too. And just because I have an idea how things should be, you have to be careful about that. I mean, it may be a great idea, but as you start down that path, maybe smarter people than you around you start saying, Joey, have you ever thought about this, or taking it in this direction?
Right.
And, I've been fortunate that I've surrounded myself, like yourself and other people, to bounce things off, ask questions, run things by. I could see how entrepreneurs could get in trouble if they say, come hell or high water, it's me. I'm doing this my way.
Well, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that come in that I see that think if I build it, I've said this often, they will come. And I say, you may be wrong. I've seen a lot of inventions. As I said, I've seen stuff that really defines the future. Look, augmented reality glasses are becoming a reality, probably from major players like Apple and Google and others, either this year or next year. I mean, really low-cost, high-resolution glasses that are going to feel like you're wired at all times. That invention started 35 plus years ago. And I saw the original inventors, and I remember thinking, can you make this work? Can it actually scale? They were like 35 years too early. Now, if you could put yourself back in a time capsule, you might say, well, maybe had they done this, that, or the other thing, things would be different. But the truth is, a lot of the processing power of computerization had not yet arrived by that point. That was the reality. So in wrapping up kind of your journey on Bundle Select, you've been in this now for 2 years, 3 years?
About 2.5 years since the idea came to me. But actually through some beta first, we did a lot of business planning, trying to figure out the model and testing. So long, I would, honestly, working with customers, it's been about a year, a little over a year. We're actually launched in April, May of last year, of 2018, officially, but we were working on it prior to that. So I'd say a little over a year of actually, live and doing business for sure. And we're starting to see some exciting success, and I'm looking forward to the next journey.
Well, tell people how they can reach you in the role of Bundle Select, because you may get some people that want to know more about how they can cut their costs of real estate transactions.
So anybody listening to this podcast, there's a couple different things. One, if you work for a company, no matter what capacity, if you would like to see your company offer a benefit where you could have bundled real estate lending services at a 25% discount with a concierge at no cost to you or your company, then you should contact us, and you could just go to bundleselect.com. That's bundleselect.com. Also, I'll throw out there, for those innovators or anybody that's listening to this, and we're going to be looking for some talent soon, Jack, too. I mean, for anybody in business development, operations, technology, marketing, there's going to be, over the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to be looking for some talent to help us at Bundle Select. So we're excited. It's been a long journey, but as most entrepreneurs will tell you, and you know yourself, if you believe in it, you just keep at it.
And you are one of the most persistent people I know, so I know it's going to be a success. And just full disclosure, I am an investor. I am the lawyer for the company. The firm, our firm, is backing Joe in a big way. We love what he's doing. We know he's going to be successful. We're with him for the long term. And the beauty of this story is it really is a good example of what we've been teaching in the starting something and growing something shows, which is you are on a journey that is leveraged by lots of other people around you with the view of using modern technology as we've now built in the law office here. Of course, my partners and associates like, what are you doing back there? And they're like, laughing. I said, I'm not the millennial. You should be running this thing. So I'm Jack Russo. This is the Valley Current. You can reach me at Computer Law Group. We have offices here in Palo Alto, California, a block from the University Avenue store of Apple Computer. It's 401 Florence Street in Palo Alto. And I'm Jay Russo, J-R-U-S-S-O at computerlaw.com. Thank you, Joe, for the inspiration. Thank you for coming on the first show. Thank you for helping me debug the equipment. And I owe you lunch and or dinner for sure.
You're
for all
well
this help.
On your way. This is exciting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
The Valley Current.